This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Pantech Breakout on Verizon. This is Verizon's affordable 4G LTE phone, and it's $99 with contract after rebates, making it a third of the cost of the Droid Bionic on Verizon, which of course is their flagship phone and one of the more expensive. Generally speaking, their LTE phones have been more expensive, though you're paying for the new faster wireless network and the LTE radios that are incorporated. So this guy is your basic budget Android phone with really mid-range specs, something that would have been last year's pretty good specs are now mid-range specs, and a fairly aesthetically basic design. We've got this little silver wheel look over here, but these are really just your standard Android buttons. These are clicky, pressy buttons. These are not capacitive touch buttons. Got a microphone hole down here. Side view, fairly thick, but among LTE phones it's not really that thick. They do tend to be somewhat thicker. Your volume controls here. Your headphone jack is on the side. And something unusual here, which is actually a voice command button. It starts Nuon's voice command, not Google's voice command. There's your dedicated camera button there. And this is your on-off power switch, which is kind of oddly and inconveniently placed. If you grab the phone by the side, you tend to hit it when you don't mean to. And the micro USB port is under the door right here. On the back we have the 5 megapixel camera, speaker grill over here, and this is the back that slides off to reveal the 1500 milliamp battery, the LTE SIM card slot, not a world roaming GSM SIM card, just the LTE SIM card, and the micro SD card slot. Slides off with a little bit of effort, like so. And you can see here's the 8 gig card that the phone comes with. Here's your LTE SIM card, and here's the battery. You do need to remove the battery to access the micro SD card, which is kind of annoying because when we plug this into a Mac, it does not work over USB in mass storage mode. At least with my Mac, it wouldn't recognize it. It did work fine with Windows, so we had to yank out the back, take the battery out, and pull the SD card every time we wanted to transfer files to the card. The phone has a 4-inch 800 by 480 capacitive multi-touch display, and the quality's not bad. It's not Super AMOLED from Samsung, for example, but it's sharp, it's clear, and typical glossy kind of thing. It has a 1 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon 2nd Gen CPU with Adreno 205 graphics, single-core CPU, 512 megs of RAM. Front VGA camera for video chat, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS, the usual stuff that you expect to see, and of course eVideo Rev A and LTE for Verizon's network. Now this is showing 2 bars of LTE here, which is actually 1 bar more than our Droid Bionic shows, but bars don't mean everything. In fact, looking at the signal in decibels, the Droid Bionic pulls in about 5 dB better signal than does the Pantech, and sometimes we lose 4G on this phone LTE, which isn't a problem we've had with any of Verizon's LTE phones so far. Also, data transfer speeds with this have been a bit slower, where our Droid Bionic manages about 15 megs down and about 3 megs up with a fairly weak signal, 90 dB, as you can see we have right here. This phone manages about 5 megs down and 1 meg up. And you bring it to a better coverage area, and it gets up to about 15 megs download speed, but at that point the Bionic is pulling 22. To a certain extent, you do get what you pay for. Call quality is okay, it's not great. Calls are intelligible on both ends, but our call recipients could tell that we were calling from a cell phone, and they said we sounded slightly indistinct. This is what the data looks like. It's large, friendly, easy to use, and instead of having the usual favorites that we see on Google phones, you do have access to your call log, your contacts, and groups. You have speed dial over here, and this is something like, wow, this is from like 5 years ago, right, on Windows mobile phones, where you actually go ahead and you pick folks out of your address book, you hit the plus, and then you pick somebody, and we'll just pick one of the Verizon preset numbers. Oh, and it said that one was already assigned in number 98. Guess what? Let's go all the way down here, and apparently some of the standard Verizon ones are assigned. But that's how you go about doing it. We'll just add somebody else instead. Like so. So a little strange, a little old-fashioned. I'd rather just have access to my favorites in my Google account, but that's what Pantech has done. The phone runs Android Gingerbread 2.3.3. That means you don't get that video chat functionality in Google Talk just yet, but you can use other chat apps. And you can see that Pantech has lightly customized the UI. They've got their own clock widget up here, and they've got their little quick launcher for some applications down here. And then they've got this little techno grid background here behind this otherwise standard Android icons and dots to indicate which page of icons you're on. And anything that you install gets appended at the end. They're not inserted alphabetically among your existing applications. In terms of speed, this benchmarked at 1333 on Quadrant, which is decent for a single-core 1 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon CPU. In terms of video playback performance, it wouldn't play back 720p high-profile content, so you're going to have to take it a little easy with this guy and stick with DVD resolution 720p standard profile. And we'll take a look at how that goes right now. We've got a 720 piece loaded in our gallery. And we are at near maximum volume. The speaker is not terribly loud on this.
Between July and August, a line will be drawn and then colored in yellow. Run! Run! Jump!
So that plays fine, and the screen looks quite nice too.
Run!
No complaints about the screen. In terms of software, you've got some of Verizon's current favorites bundled, like Amazon Kindle, Blockbuster, their City ID application. We've had some Pantech apps like their clock tools, a unit converter, and a document viewer. This does not come with an MS Office Complete suite that lets you edit or create MS Office documents. Google Books is preloaded, and that's becoming standard now with Android phones. We've got the mobile hotspot feature, which is nice. You can use the phone as a 4G hotspot and share your connection with up to 5 Wi-Fi devices. And Verizon does charge extra per month for that. And if you're on a budget, this phone's a good choice, but otherwise I would probably go with the phone that gets faster LTE download speeds if you're really into that mobile hotspot feature. Other apps include NFL Mobile. We've got Need for Speed Shift bundled on there, TuneWiki, Rhapsody, and the usual Verizon applications like VCast Tones, VCast Videos, VCast Music, and VCast Media Manager, and of course the Nuance voice control that's included. VZ Navigator is also on board if Google Maps and navigation don't float your boat, though they're certainly very capable. And the standard YouTube player is on board as well, as is Google Search. We've also got Verizon's data usage widget installed here, although it's having a little bit of trouble figuring things out right now. Usually that's pretty reliable and tell you how much data you've used. That's an important thing with an LTE phone because you can burn through data quite quickly. A 2 gig plan, you can go through that in about a week if you want to stream some videos. We've got the standard Android WebKit web browser here with Adobe Flash on board. We'll check that out. And we'll visit our own side first. And you can see it comes with the swipe keyboard and a rather loud, clicky set of sound effects. I guess you can turn those off. So here's our web page. It took longer to load, certainly it does on something like the Droid Charge by Samsung or the Droid Bionic, but there, and you can zoom in and zoom out. That's reasonably fluid, and it's handling the several Adobe Flash ads quite well. And it can play Adobe Flash video, so we're going to take a look at our video review of the Galaxy S2. See how that goes. Alright, let's give the video a try. Data connection is not exactly cranking really well right now, so we'll see how this goes. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S2 for AT&T. Once we've gotten rolling, it's doing pretty well. Let's see if we can pop it out to full screen. So we popped out to full screen mode. It's doing quite well, especially for a single-core CPU. And Verizon's LTE is certainly keeping up. So now we're checking out the Need for Speed Shift demo. It's not full version, but we can get a race going. When you first launch the game, it's an additional 100 meg download, by the way, so you probably want to be on Wi-Fi to do that. It plays fine. So that's the Pantech Breakout. It's available now for $99 after rebate with a 2-year contract. Battery life on this is not so hot. Now, LTE phones don't tend to have great battery life. LTE does consume quite a bit of power, but that 1500 milliamp battery means you're going to definitely be charging it every single day. If you're a heavy user, you might want to get a spare battery for this phone. Also, something to note is the back does get warm if you're doing something really intense like playing Need for Speed Shift, but I wouldn't say it's alarmingly hot, but it does get warm. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review.